Good evening and welcome back to the Return Homestead. My name is Mike. My wife Marty and I homestead 50 acres in southeastern Kentucky. A few days ago, we left you guys kind of stranded. We only did 2 rows of our potatoes. You can see from the depth behind me that the potatoes are definitely finished. It's time to get these things out of the ground, and we've got a few hours of sunlight left, so we're going to get busy digging. We thought you might like to come along. Those of you who are watching and don't have a large plot that you can dedicate to growing potatoes in, that's part of why we're doing these videos. We want to encourage people to return to the land. And returning to the land has some distinct advantages. First of all, land is an appreciating asset. Nobody thinks twice about buying a car these days. But the car is a depreciating asset. As soon as you drive it off the lot, it's worth less than what you just paid for it. Land isn't like that. Over the course of the last century or so, the price of land has just continued to go up, especially agricultural land. And then here in the United States, we've subdivided and broken up farms for years, generations really, turning them into subdivisions full of McMansions. And so most people aren't buying land anymore. They're buying the house and the 1/4 to 1/3 of an acre that it sits on. Not a lot of dirt to work with there. One of the best ways to build wealth is to invest it in assets that increase in value. And yeah, I know people are talking right now about gold and silver and how the price on gold and silver keeps going up. But same is true of land. And the price on gold and silver has fluctuated over the years. Most of the time it's a good place to put your money, but occasionally the value of precious metals, silver in particular, can bottom out. You end up losing money instead of making money. And again, land is not like that. It only appreciates in value. Second, land is a productive asset. You can grow food. You can grow trees. Those trees can be used for lumber. They can be used to heat your home. So those are definitely things that we need in our day-to-day lives. I'm sure most of you who've seen your electricity bills lately would love to find some way to reduce that. Well, one of the ways is to use wood for heat. Yeah, you may not be able to cut down your own trees and mill your own lumber because you don't have a lumber mill. But you can even use a chainsaw to mill off rough boards. And you may not build a house out of that. Well, you could. But you could certainly build goat barns, chicken coops, wood sheds. So that lumber has distinct value. Here in the Appalachians, we've got other natural assets that just grow wild on the land. Different types of mushrooms, morels. It's a really big item here in this part of Kentucky. There's also the potential to grow ginseng. Most of that is collected wild.
Have you just done this row?
No, just here next to me to my left. I haven't dug yet.
Okay, that's
I
why.
was kind of skunked throughout the about a 2-foot section there. There were no potatoes.
I'm not seeing much.
Not quite the yield we were hoping for sure.
No.
This is our first year on this plot, so in our first year growing this many potatoes, so anything we get is a blessing. So there's lots of advantages to having land to work with.
Start down here so I'm not doubling up.
And, you know, land is always the way that God began his promises to the nation of Israel, too. It was through land that he was going to bless them and cause them to grow and prosper. It's hard to know in what ways God will bless you if you own some land and you use it wisely, put a little effort into it. I only get a handful of potatoes, but maybe that's all you need. We're working toward being self-sufficient. We want to be 100% able to at least feed ourselves. We're not there yet. Being able to grow potatoes is a long, big step. Maybe you're thinking you don't know how to grow potatoes. Yeah, me neither. We're just out here figuring it out. You got to have the land to work with first. I know in our society today we figure money is used to grow more money. So we invest 401ks and other investment packages, mutual funds of all sorts. You give your money to someone else who invests it for you. And the reality is, if you make money, so does your investment broker. If you don't make money, he still gets rich. Hopefully he's making good investments for you. And of course, those investments are only good and sound so long as the dollar is good and sound. I'm not one of those alarmists who thinks that it could collapse overnight. I suppose it could. It has before. But it's also possible that it'll be replaced. There'll be some other medium of exchange besides currency or cash. And that may work out to your advantage, and it may not. But regardless, the land will retain its value. It's not dependent on the value of the dollar. Most of the return on your investment comes from just putting in some hard work. A few sunburn ones in here. I suppose you don't want those in the
No.
pile. Pick them out as I go. So if your potatoes get exposed to the sun, they will become toxic. You don't want to eat those. And you'll know it, they turn green. So they're pretty obviously sunburned. And there's return to labor. Not really sure where it happened in our society that we convinced ourselves that the objective of life was to relax. That it's the duty of man to go on a cruise or to sit on a beach and do nothing. We spend a better portion of our day looking forward to that time when we get to the end of the day, we could just sit around, do nothing. I can assure you that 50 years of sitting around doing nothing will get you nothing in return. It is our province in life not to retire, but to labor until the day we die. It's just the way it's designed. And you can fight against it. Come up with all kinds of schemes that give you plenty of leisure time, allow you to watch lots of TV. But that's not really going to produce anything in your life.
This harvest is a little sad.
Yeah, potatoes are pretty small, but the plants are definitely played out now.
Oh, yeah.
So these aren't going to get any bigger.
I think we did better last year.
Yield-wise, but we didn't plant this tight last year.
No.
Definitely planted them too close together.
It was a failed experiment.
Yeah, we learned a lot, though.
Yeah, we did. It's hot out here.
We're not foolish. We don't just work the ground. You don't really add any value to the land by working it, except by proving that it can produce something useful. Maybe that'll get somebody else's attention. We've got 2 houses on the property. We've done some light remodeling in the one we're living in now. We're doing a complete overhaul on the other one. And all of that adds value to the land. And we don't necessarily have any plans to sell our homestead and move anywhere else. It just means starting over again. But if we ever needed to, the property's already worth a lot more than what we paid for it. You can do that in the suburbs.
We did.
We did, yeah. Put a lot of time and effort into putting a backyard onto what was already a beautiful property. Really nice house. We were the first owners of it.
Oh.
And in the end, turned out the backyard was why it sold. And sold for what we were asking for it. And of course, there's return to life. Well, what does that mean, really? So often that to most people it means having all the money you want to be able to do all of the things you want to do when you want to do them. To be retired, able to watch all the ball games that come on TV, record the ones you can't get to and watch them later. I have yet to see anything productive come out of watching a football game.
Careful now.
What's that?
I said, be careful now.
Yeah, I know. Touching on tender subjects there, I'm sure. Nothing wrong with sitting around watching a ball game, don't get me wrong. But if that becomes the definition of your life, what happens if there's no football on TV? They've gone on strike before. If that's your entire existence, what are you going to fall back on? Soccer? Basketball? Yeah, with working the land and putting your labor into the land, if something goes wrong and you have a bad harvest, you just start over. You don't have to lose your focus just because things didn't go well. And it's not the startling yield we were hoping for, but I think we're getting some decent amount of potatoes here. Smarty already dug up the one side plot, got a small wheelbarrow full of potatoes. So we're really just adding to what we've already harvested. That crate's about full, it's kind of heavy. I'm a firm believer that life should be about a purpose. I don't think anybody's here on this earth for accidental causes. I believe there's a reason for everyone being here. We all have a purpose to fulfill. Having a good life is really about figuring out what your purpose is and dedicating yourself to living it out. It's certainly not about having enough time and money to take a vacation. So what are you doing with your life? What is that purpose that you have dedicated yourself to? I suppose you could make leisure a purpose. Not sure that would be one that you would be assigned by God, but you could certainly choose that. I know there's folks out there that are thinking, well, I've got my family. My family is my purpose. No, they're just your family. Taking care of them is just something that you have to do the same way everybody else who has a family does. What's that? Yeah, it's really a privilege. I mean, life is pretty empty and hollow if you try to live it just by yourself. Oh, there's another nice one with sunburn. I wish I hadn't planted them so tight so I could have come in here with some straw and covered.
Or mounded.
Or mounded them, yeah.
It was an experiment. It didn't work.
Yeah, by the time the plants were big enough to mound them, it rained a couple of weeks and then they were too big to even get in the bed. So we kind of had to let them go and hope they'd shade themselves. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the chickens except that we have too many roosters and it's the end of the day. And they decide that's the time they want to start fighting and making a commotion. So no, it's not the best harvest in the world, but we are getting plenty of potatoes out of here. This is more than enough to carry us through the winter. We do hope that you're being encouraged by seeing us out here doing this. We think everybody should be doing something to produce food for themselves. And that's why we want to make these videos, to encourage people to return to the land, return to labor, and return to life. We do appreciate you sharing this short time digging potatoes with us. We've still got about half the bed left to dig, so I'm going to get the camera off so I can get busy just digging. Focus on getting this thing done. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. And while you have that window open, go ahead and hit that like button. We'll see you next time.